What about just your faith or your relationship with Jesus? Did that play, or does it play a role?
It does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. Like I said, I was feeling like my lives were in conflict with each other. How could I show up at church on Sunday morning and pretend that
There's a disconnect.
Saturday night didn't happen? Exactly. And I was feeling that conviction, which I think was, completely necessary. And I had been feeling it for a while, and I realized that I want to represent myself in a way that shows Jesus to other people.
Yeah.
And it's very confusing when, you're living a life and you're, partying and things like that, and you're doing things while you're drinking, and people are like, oh, she's a Christian. Interesting.
We believe that you are strong by design, and you were made in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit. You're listening to the #1 Strength and Health Authority podcast in the world. So let's get ready to unlock your potential and transform your life in today's episode.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Strong by Design podcast. My name is Jared. I am one of the hosts here. I get the privilege of talking about our faith-based content. We are strong by design. We believe that God made us strong in our minds and our bodies and our spirits, and our spirituality is a very important piece when it comes to being whole and being all that Jesus wants us to be. And so today we have an incredible guest with us. Her name is Abby Clapper, and Abby is a recent jump into the podcast world. Also has her own company, which we'll learn about today. But we also are going to learn about her sobriety and her journey to sobriety, and what that looks like for her, and what we can learn from her story. So, Abby, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast with me. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, Abby and I actually met when my wife was working the clubhouse, which is the preschool age at church, and had no idea your story or what you were going through or any of that, because, I mean, how long have you been a teacher?
I've been teaching in the clubhouse for, I think, about a year and it might be coming up on 2 years now, actually. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was probably right around the same time, right?
Close. It was close. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, right around the same time of jumping into sobriety. And then one day I'm, being dumb and wasting time. And this is good, though, right? God can use bad things for a good thing. And so I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I saw that you were at Podfest and posting different stuff, which Chris and I have been to. And I'm like, this is awesome. What are you doing? I like it. I started investigating you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what a story you have to share. And so I'm like, I got to have her come on the show and share just everything that God is doing in your life. So maybe take us back a little bit. Like, let me hear your story. When did you first start drinking? How did it affect you? Anything that you want to share, I'm all ears.
Yeah, it's quite the story. So I have been a Christian my whole life. I grew up, my family, we went to church every Sunday. I grew up the typical Christian kid. Didn't drink until...
Did you grow up in Florida?
I grew up in Wisconsin.
Oh, in Wisconsin.
Yes, Wisconsin,
okay.
yes.
Right.
So moved down to Florida in end of 2016, early 2017.
Okay.
Made the jump, but I went to college in Wisconsin, so I didn't drink through high school. And when I got to college, I truly wanted to have the quote unquote college experience because I hadn't gotten to experience anything during high school. Which
kind of like your Amish outing.
That's a really good way to put it. Honestly, I will tell you, someone actually called me Amish once when I was growing up because my family didn't have cable. So this girl in my hometown was like, "What are you, Amish?" It's like, "No, we just don't have cable." Yeah. So that's funny that you say that. But yeah, so I got to college and I wanted that experience. I still went to church. I was still involved in Crew. It was Campus Crusade for Christ that was on campus. So I was doing that all 4 years. But while I was doing that, I also had friends, both in the organization and outside who were drinking. And I wanted to have what I thought at the time was fun.
Yeah.
So, and I just, jumped both feet in freshman year. And once I, turned 21 and, could go out to the bars. I was, out. I went to a smaller college in Wisconsin. That's actually its nickname. Can I say the university?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I went to the University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh. The nickname was Sloshkosh because of the drinking culture.
That's so funny.
It is, yeah.
I went to Barclay College. It was nicknamed Bridal College.
No way.
Because everybody gets married.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So everybody's got their
That's
thing,
right.
right?
Everyone's got their nicknames. That's right.
Yeah. So I went to Sloshkosh, and it lived up to its name for me. And I found out once I shared my story publicly with people, I found out that there were a lot of other people that I knew in college who were doing the same thing, who are actually kind of exploring their own sobriety now also.
Yeah.
So we can kind of come back to that. But when I was in college, I was going out 3 to 4 nights a week, which it's a lot, but that's what the people around me were doing. It just felt like that was the college experience. And it also, led to, because I was also a part of this Christian organization, it led to, kind of some friction of feeling like maybe I wasn't fully accepted or, but at the
by the Christian organization or
by some people, by some people in the organization. It just, that's kind of another part of my story. I've, stuck with the church through everything that I've kind of been through, but it did cause, there was kind of a lot of hurt that came from that, partially due to my own decisions, but also just from...
Because you're a big fat sinner.
Right, exactly. Right. Naturally, and no one else is. So, there were other people in the organization who we partied together. So it just, it kind of just led to a very confusing kind of, I don't really know what to describe it as, but it's just kind of like a conflict of interest almost. It just was very interesting. So.
Kind of muddled.
Yeah, it was. And so once
Did you feel like when you're jumping into that lifestyle, was it something that you were like, man, this is kind of fun? Or were you uncomfortable for a while and got over it? What were your feelings kind of diving in? I
had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It felt at the beginning, it felt very freeing, and it just felt, when a lot of people go to college, that's their opportunity to try everything they didn't get to try, or to continue the lifestyle that they were living, but now they get to do it on their own with no parents, and no one telling them what to do. So, I
just say that's like my biggest fear with my children.
Totally.
And we're trying really hard to figure out how to let them experience things in a safe way, so that they know how to handle the freedom once they have it.
Right.
But
and
anyway, any advice on that?
I think that's very difficult because my parents didn't let me drink. And I, was never allowed to go to parties in high school.
We let our kids drink all the time. I'm just kidding.
At the ripe age of 9 and 10, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So my parents, I couldn't go to the parties where they knew that there were alcohol.
Right.
And I had some friends who their parents let them drink.
It's almost like curiosity driven.
It was, I think so. And I don't fault my parents for that because they were doing what they thought was best.
Yeah.
And my friends' parents who let them drink thought that they were doing what was best by letting them drink in, a safe, controlled environment, what they thought was safe and controlled. So I'm not even sure that there is, a safe way to do it.
Right.
Especially when you think about
lots of prayer, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just having those honest conversations with your kids too. I mean, looking back, there's, if there's family around or, that's what the kids are seeing, that's almost what they might want to replicate.
Yeah.
So I think even leading by example or just having a lot of those conversations. I mean, even in school, maybe we had the MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or whatever it is. Come maybe once and talk about, or they bring in the smashed car in high school, and then they tell you that one of your, the fake scenario where one of your fellow students was in a wreck, and
that for our family, my niece actually, 4 or 5 years ago now, they were driving. It's a major highway in Colorado, north of Denver, and basically it's 2 lanes on this side, the grass median, and then 2 lanes on this side. But it's a 75-mile-an-hour highway, so everyone's going minimum 80, right? And a guy was drunk and came on the wrong side of the highway and hit her and her boyfriend head on.
Yeah.
Thankfully, she survived. He survived. Messed up her leg real bad. All kinds of stuff, but. You're right, though. Our kids saw that experience, and it's really influenced them because they attribute that accident to alcohol, right? Which it was.
That's important.
That was what caused.
Right.
This guy was so drunk he couldn't tell what side of the highway it was on.
Exactly. So. Yeah, absolutely. And So I think.
Sorry, I derailed you.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine. I'm trying to think of where.
You were talking about how your parents.
Oh yeah.
Were were trying to do their best to teach you about alcohol.
Right, absolutely. And even, I went to youth group. I, grew up in the youth group culture too. So none of those friends were drinking.
Right.
My high school friends were drinking, but my friends at church weren't. So again, it was really interesting. And I think it's also different too because you live your life as a Christian. When you're younger, you grow up hearing what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But then kind of as soon as you get out from under, like you said, like that parental kind of guard, you get to decide for yourself. Like we have our, our free will and use it, good or bad, whatever the situations are. So anyways, yeah. So that happened in college. And then I met my husband right before I moved down to Florida. And he still had another semester at school, and I was moving down for my internship. And I remember when we started talking, he had said, I don't know if this will work if you keep, partying and doing what you're doing. And I said, well, once I move to Florida, I don't think it'll be the same. I'm not within walking distance to 5 college bars with all my friends.
Right.
And, sure enough, I moved down to Florida, things calmed down a little bit. Still enjoyed, going out, but then you add in the aspect of having to drive places, right? So, and I think, what you mentioned is conversations I've had with a lot of people. A lot of people have driven under the influence and feel, myself included, and feel incredibly guilty about doing that because, thanks be to God for, things being as safe as they were in those situations, but it's more common than people realize, or they do realize, and just hope for the best.
Right.
So anyways, moved down to Florida.
So it always baffles me when people are like, "I'll be all right."
Yeah.
Will you though?
Right, and you don't realize it until something happens.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the old mentality, right? It'll never happen to me. I remember my parents teaching me that at a young age, like. You got one life, and then it's over, and so they probably put too much fear in me where I was afraid to do anything.
Yeah.
But when it came to driving and taking care of myself, it was like I always had the right mindset, and I'm thankful to my parents for giving me that mindset.
Yeah.
Knowing that I am a being that can die.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So coming to Florida, I was making new friends here, and those friends, the other interns that I was working with, we would go out, party. So I still continued that mentality. I knew it wasn't going to be what it was in college, but I didn't really want to let go of that, especially because it is such a big social part of our society, a part of our culture, which is actually a big reason why I stopped is because. Mostly because I don't want society and culture to tell me what to do. So I don't want to, be influenced by, seeing drinks on TV, hearing about advertisements from, alcohol companies. Something I talked about in my own podcast episode where I shared my sobriety story is there was a book that was really influential in my journey called Quit Like a Woman. And she talked about how big tobacco played such a big part in the amount of people who smoke now, right?
Sure.
Who just smoke, cigarettes, vaping, things like that. And she likened it to...
That one's weird, too, because, they used to push that it was, good for you.
Totally. Exactly. Right. And so
it's
now
just what you do.
She calls it big alcohol. It's like big pharma, big, tobacco, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Big alcohol. So
big business.
Exactly. So essentially... all these, wherever we look, people are drinking, they're having a glass of wine, they're even in just a casual social setting, and that's imprinted in your mind.
Because that's what you do.
Exactly. And I think that was a big part of why I wanted the college experience. The quote-unquote college experience that I had is just seeing all of these things and wanting to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So.
Did you like the taste of alcohol at the beginning?
I didn't like beer. Learned that it was an acquired taste, similar to what people told me coffee was going to be.
Yeah, beer is terrible.
It is terrible.
I hate beer.
Yeah, it is bad, and it's funny though because I drank it for so long.
Yeah.
If I go somewhere, I'll have an NA, a non-alcoholic beer, just because I don't want to not hold on to anything. Still don't want to feel like I'm not a part of something. So I'll order an NA beer, and it's like, okay, cool. So now I'm just drinking this. It tastes terrible, and there's no alcohol in it.
Yeah.
So I gotta find something else. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of restaurants now really have their mocktails are on point. So I can't say I loved the taste of alcohol.
In a real good cocktail, you can't taste the alcohol anyway.
Exactly. It's juice, it's
That's
soda.
right.
Yeah. So, but in college, you're drinking the cheapest, worst,
That's
worst stuff that just,
Yeah. So I had a group of friends in Colorado, and he had us come to his house for this whiskey tasting.
Ooh.
And it was like different barrels of this is 7-year, this is 15, and this is 22. I think those were the three. And he had his little book, and he'd pull it out and be like, all right, now. And like, I think maybe he had 4 of them. We're on like the third one. And I'm like, it's all rubbing alcohol. And we got to the final one, and it was like the most expensive, And he's like, Jared, you can't have this because all you're going to do is make fun of it. And I said, you are giving that to me, and I am drinking it. I have gone through this whole terrible thing, and I'm finishing the row. I don't care what you say.
Trying the most expensive one.
That's right. And it was still
bad.
Still bad, yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. I don't know that I know. Isn't it weird how the social aspect of something trumps even the original disgust of something?
Absolutely.
And it's like, I don't care that this is terrible. I don't care that this is terrible for me. I want to be a part of whatever this thing is, and so I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Right. And whatever that is, I think includes not having to, deal with your problems.
Sure.
Is a big piece of it. And wanting to just, let go, let loose, not worry about, what you have going on in your life. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in Florida. You're interning. You've scaled back, but you're still going out.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah. So then my husband, we were still dating at the time, had moved down. So, we were spending more time together.
That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Obviously it all worked out. So,
Since he moved down here, we thought we'll hang out a little bit more.
Hang out every once in a while. So then as I got older, I finished my internship. I get into, my different jobs within corporate wellness, meet some more of my friends. So I probably in 2017, I had started making what I would call like my lifelong friends. So met my very first friend in 2017. And then when I went to working corporate for the first time in 2018, I met one of my other really good friends and have just kind of been collecting all these really nice friends into my 30s now, who have stuck by my side through everything. So, but during this time, it's kind of cool to see now looking back, because those friends have grown. We've all grown alongside each other. So at the time I would go drinking with them. We would all, go out together, and, it just seemed, again, just like the normal societal thing to do. Let's go out, let's have fun, let's party on the weekends. Now we're working real jobs. We want to let loose on the weekends, and, did that for a few years. And I would say it kind of, my last like really big thing that I did. So I got married during COVID. So I didn't have a normal wedding. I didn't have a normal experience.
You didn't have the big
wedding
party.
experience. Correct. Yeah. So I got married with just family on the beach down here in Florida. It was beautiful.
Yep.
So then 3 years later, once, things have kind of passed, I ended up throwing myself a bachelorette party.
Okay.
Because I never got one.
Sure.
So now I'm married. So it wasn't even a bachelorette party.
I never got a bachelorette party either.
No, I'm sure you didn't. So me and all my best friends, we went down to Miami, and, we partied, and I was like, this is, peak partying. We're in Miami. We're having a great time. But then, I think if we all kind of start to feel our age a little bit more, you can't drink like you did when you were younger. You wake up, the hangovers are worse. The what I call hangxiety, the hangover with the anxiety is worse. And, you just can't bounce back like you used to. You can't be a productive member of society for about 24 hours. And, so that was in May of, it's been May of last year, or 2 years ago. So then, the thing that really made me make my decision to at least start exploring, like, what does sobriety look like? Can it be a part of my life? I had gone out with a friend in downtown Tampa, down in Ybor, and I had Ubered home. I had lost my car.
Oh man.
Which was a big thing, and Kind of big. Yeah, I knew where it should have been parked, but I couldn't find it. And I will say there are other contributing stories a little bit earlier, maybe within the past like couple of years before that led to this decision, just kind of accumulation of irresponsible decisions that I've made. But for some reason...
While drinking?
Yes, while drinking. Yes. Yes, just the drinking.
Just to clarify.
I do make some bad decisions just normally, but specifically while drinking, yes. So when I woke up the next morning, and I'll be honest, it was a Sunday morning, and I had to work in the clubhouse that day. And I woke up early. I realized that I didn't have my car, so I, before church, Ubered back down to where my car was, found my car, drove it home. And as I'm, sitting at home, I'm realizing, like, Abby, you cannot keep doing this. This is, you feel terrible. I woke up with that pit in my stomach, the anxiety, what am I doing? And, the fact that I had, lost my car, and I'm thinking about all of the other times that I had made really terrible decisions. And I just said to myself, something needs to change. And so I got on Amazon. I ordered that book that I told you about, the Quit Like a Woman by Holly Whitaker. And it came like the next day. And I just started reading and decided that I couldn't do it anymore. And, that Sunday I still made it to church. I still served. And I also was really feeling this, similar to in college, this inner conflict of like, my life is not aligning. It's not matching up. And so that was another big piece of it. So
how's your husband in the midst of all of this?
Totally. Yeah. So he, things after when he had said that in college and, things did scale back. He never really, said anything after that. He didn't drink as much as I did, would just drink occasionally if we were out with friends, things like that. And so it never really... even through the, big mistakes that I had made while I was drinking, he was always still there to love me, and which is amazing because I know that that's not always the case. It can really drive a wedge between people. But he's very understanding and very caring, and gave me a lot of grace, which I'm so grateful for. And especially as I moved into my, looking into sobriety, he has just been so supportive through all of it. He's seen me at my worst, and now he's, seeing me come out on the other side of it. So just really thankful for someone who's given me that kind of grace.
Yeah. That grace and that support, right?
Totally.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
So how long have you been sober?
So let's see. My sobriety date is January 16th. And I have a fun story about the day that I decided to become sober.
Okay.
So after I read the book, I decided to try Sober Curious, which is kind of trending along with the sober movement. So Sober Curiosity is you scale back, you don't drink as much, and you see how you feel, and you try to do other things. Turns out, me and my addictive personality just couldn't do that either. So I was still making poor decisions and just drinking and just not feeling good. So in January of last year, beginning of January, my husband and I went to Thailand with some family on a trip. So we were out traveling, and I, some of the family that we were with, they were, still drinking. And I was like, I'm going to try to not. I want to make sure I remember this whole experience. Thailand is beautiful. I want to experience everything. I don't want to be drunk. I don't want to wake up with a headache. I'm already jet lagged. So, so on the 15th, the 15th of January, one of my cousins had asked, Abby, do you want a beer? And I was like, oh man, like I'm in Thailand. I should try like a Thai beer. Right. So my husband had gone to bed. And so I decided, sure, I'll have a beer. So drank this beer, tasted pretty much like a Bud Light, was nothing spectacular. And I just thought, it's just not worth it. And it's just a really powerful moment to just realize that this is not what I want anymore. So January 16th, 2020, what year is it? 2024 was when I stopped drinking. And it's been...
So it's just over a year.
Just over a year. Yeah, because it's February 25th, 26th. So it's been, year and a little over a month. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so now on the other side, how are you feeling? What changes do you see in your life?
Yeah, I feel significantly better physically. I mean, I will say once I stopped drinking, I found myself gravitating towards more sugar, which...
Because sugar's awesome.
Sugar is awesome. Sugar is also a simple carbohydrate.
Yeah.
And that's what's in alcohol as
Right.
well. So I felt like I was replacing something.
Yeah.
So, still trying to work through that a little bit. It's definitely better than it was, but I was happy to at least have something that wasn't alcohol
Yeah.
that I could gravitate towards. And I feel like that's probably pretty normal.
Yeah.
So apart from that, I mean, I feel like I think that, I'm having more productive conversations with people. I'm having better relationships with people. Because I don't take credit for this, but because I've shared my story, I've come forward, and my friends and family have seen me through all of this. It's led to other people making a similar decision to either cut back on alcohol or become sober completely, which is incredible to see.
Yeah.
My mental health is better than it would be. So actually last year, after I became sober, I also decided to come off my anxiety medication. I'd been on it for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And I know that I could not have stayed off that medication if I had continued drinking.
Yeah.
Because it just led to so much anxiety, questioning what happened the night before, all these different things. So, although I'm still learning coping mechanisms to be able to live my life and not feel that crippling anxiety, I know that I'm better off than I would have been if I was still drinking.
Yeah. Have you gone through any counseling or anything like that to help kind of sift through the why you were drinking in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I had a counselor. There was an incident that had happened, and I ended up having to speak with
You lost your car?
counselor before that one.
Okay.
Where I did end up having to actually talk to somebody about my drinking.
Yeah.
And we worked through a lot of it, and it was really funny. I'll never forget this. The counselor I was working with at the time said, and he was really great. He said, well, you're not drinking every day. You don't have a problem. So, we obviously have to talk about some alcohol stuff, but if you want to talk about anything else, we can do that. Well, naturally, I want to talk about anything else. I want to talk about my anxiety because I wanted to figure that out. And so, now that I'm working through more of my feelings, like with my therapist, it's just, I never wanted to feel like I was different. I never wanted to feel like I was not a part of something. And I think that plays a big part in, just trying to fit in with the crowd and not have anybody ask questions. And
Yeah. Fear of missing out, maybe.
Big piece of that. Yeah.
What about just your faith or your relationship with Jesus? Did that play, or does it play a role?
It does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. Like I said, I was feeling like my lives were in conflict with each other. How could I show up at church on Sunday morning and pretend that
There's a disconnect.
Saturday night didn't happen? Exactly. And I was feeling that conviction, which I think was, completely necessary. And I had been feeling it for a while, and I realized that I want to represent myself in a way that shows Jesus to other people.
Yeah.
And it's very confusing when, you're living a life and you're, partying and things like that, and you're doing things while you're drinking, and people are like, oh, she's a Christian. Interesting. And then so it's been better now. I spend more time, because growing up as a Christian, I know that there's people who feel this way and people who don't, but you get so used to the Bible stories and everything that your faith doesn't really become your own. You just kind of go with the flow. That's where I was at. So I wasn't really spending time reading the Bible. I would go to church every Sunday, still go to church every Sunday. But it just felt like kind of checking the mark off on a box.
Yep.
And so now I'm able to take a little bit more ownership of my faith, reading the Bible more, focusing on those feelings of anxiety and really trying to lean into, God in those moments. And again, wanting to represent Jesus, especially owning my own business too. I owned my own business when I lost my car that night.
Oh, really?
And
when you started owning your own business?
I started, my business is almost 2 years old.
Okay.
So I had been, I think probably, I was drinking for about a year before I started my business.
Okay.
Or I was starting my business. And I was still drinking, yes.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so while I was doing that too, I just didn't want to make any mistakes that could put my business at risk. If anything,
Sure.
I didn't want to say something stupid online. I didn't want to do anything dumb. I wanted to make sure that my business was going to be viable moving forward. So
gotta be above reproach and keep face and all the things.
Exactly, and to be a good role model for my clients too.
Yeah. What's your business?
Yeah, so I own Endorphin Wellness. So it's primarily personal training. So I do some in-person personal training here in the area. I also do virtual personal training, and then I have
training for like exercise.
Yes,
or for,
yes, exercise. So primarily strength training, so lifting weights, and also have a 12-week program that I take people through to really kind of nail down their food, making sure they're getting enough protein, along with building a fitness routine that works best for them and their schedules and their life.
Yeah,
so,
that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's 2 years old.
It'll be 2 in May.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, cool. So I'm just thinking through when I think about drinking, like scripturally, there's really, the Bible warns against getting drunk. It doesn't warn against drinking.
Right.
And so my question would be, what do you say to somebody if someone's coming to you and they want to know, should I be drinking? Should I not be drinking? How would you respond to them?
Yeah. So I always tell people I'm not here to tell you not to drink, but just to make you think about your relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
If you have any inkling that you have a little bit of like a problem. So when I read this book, it was people in two camps. It was the camp of you're drinking every day. Yeah. And the camp of when you do go out and drink, it's not every day, but you are binge drinking to the point, to whatever point of being drunk, blacking out, things like that. Yeah. So she kind of was talking to those two groups. So, and usually if you make someone think about their relationship with alcohol, they'll know on the inside. They might not say anything, but it at least makes them think. So, it's funny because I actually just saw something on social media. My algorithm has now fixed itself in a way where I get like the Christians who talk about alcohol and things like that. And so someone had said, they had posted something like a video, and it said, that people always use the excuse, well, Jesus drank. Okay, well, that's fine. Did Jesus get drunk? I don't think he got drunk.
Yeah.
And the verse that you just referenced of, not getting drunk, it's not telling you not to drink.
Right.
And I could also go into the camps of, some people tell you to drink a glass of wine every day and that it's good for you, which I don't necessarily agree with, but, people have different frames of thought when it comes to that. But
Sure. Yeah. We always think of it in terms of, if my friend needed me, or if God wanted to use me for something, would I be in a sound mind to be able to do what God's asking me to do? Or am I so far gone that I'm no more use to other human beings?
Yeah, I like that approach.
And so, my wife drank a lot more early on in our marriage. She was never like, an alcoholic by any means, but I didn't do a whole lot of drinking. And then it was funny when we hit like 30, she quit, and I'm like, well, I want to see what it tastes. I drank we still never really drank a lot, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's the social pressure that says this is what you should do, and the reality of we don't really need it. Yeah. And so, there's that, finding that balance there. And for us, like thinking of it in terms of like, is it sinful or is it not sinful, right? And that's why I asked the question earlier, is because a good friend of ours, a counselor of ours, was talking to us about how the sin that we see on the outside is really only secondary to the sin that's happening underneath the surface, right? Yeah. So if you are getting drunk, that's the outward expression of the sin, but really there's something internally that's driving that, whether, and it's always tied to something selfish. So, self-preservation, self-glorification, soothing, that's what it is. You talked about people trying to avoid their problems. Well, rather than turning to Christ and actually getting help to heal your soul, I'm just going to cover it up by drinking. And so, yes, you're getting drunk, which the Bible says don't get drunk, and so that's technically the sin. But really the deeper sin is I don't trust that God can actually fix my problem, and so I'm going to take care of it myself.
Right.
And that's the real sin,
Absolutely.
right? It's the sin of autonomy.
Yeah.
Of thinking I got it.
Yeah.
I've got this. And maybe you can share. So obviously, for a lot of people, when it comes to, hey, I'm just going to quit, they struggle. Their willpower isn't strong enough. What are some practical pro tips that you might have to quit drinking, to find community, to what are the elements that are needed in order to be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've maybe stumbled through this in my past year because I didn't go through any strict program or anything like that. I just decided it was something I wanted to do on my own. And so I did use this book that I mentioned.
Which is like the first step, right? Like if you don't want to do it,
right,
then it's hard to convince somebody that it's important. Yeah.
Exactly. Unless someone tells you that you need to, be in a program.
Yeah, and even then they don't.
Might not be fully invested, right? So through this book, she had mentioned creating a new routine. So, in the morning, starting with a warm cup of lemon water, which I loved. I like tea, I like coffee, and so having something that you're starting your day off in a healthy way, and finding also ways during the day that when you know that you're going to get those cravings, have something planned to do instead. So going to a yoga class, going to work out, meeting up with a friend. So telling other people around you that that's your goal. Even when we have fitness goals, we should tell other people because it makes it public and you are now accountable to yourself and to someone else. So same thing if you are looking to, cut back on drinking or, not drink at all, is tell someone so that they can kind of keep checking in on you.
Probably the right person.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So not necessarily, not your friend who's
not
going,
your drinking
not
buddy.
your drinking buddy. Yeah.
Hey, drinking buddy. Yeah.
Hey, drinking buddy. I'm not going to drink anymore. Bad idea.
Yeah.
And also something that I found is there's Facebook groups, so especially in this area of Florida that we're in. There's it's a group. It's called
Using Facebook for good instead of evil.
Correct. Yeah. And not just endlessly scrolling.
That's
right. There's a group called Bar None, and they are a group created for finding activities for sober people. It's a group of people who are everywhere on their sober journeys and want to find other things to do with other people who are like-minded, who are also sober and can find other alternatives.
Yeah.
So,
have you seen the movie 28 Days?
No.
With Sandra Bullock?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I heard you reference it in one of your other episodes, though.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, so you need to go watch that. But it's about her journey to sobriety and the movie. At the beginning of the movie, she's drunk at her sister's wedding.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where
it
all goes. But she has that codependent friend that is always trying to get her to drink and doesn't understand why she would want to quit and all of those things. So I think that's a piece of it too, right? Is cutting ties with people that have been your friends for a long time.
Absolutely. So when I talked about this in my own episode, I didn't necessarily have that experience because my friends we've all grown together, like I said, so they are also drinking less. And so I didn't have to make any of those tough decisions to cut ties with any of those friends because they have made their own decisions to either cut back or be healthier, and they supported me when I was at my worst, and similar to my husband, and still supported me at my best, and we're all supporting each other, which is what I love so much.
Yeah.
However, if there are people in your life who are holding you back or who are tempting you to go back into drinking, it's worth the exploration of maybe looking into what would life look like if I didn't have this friendship. And that's where I think therapy can be really important because sometimes it's hard to come to those conclusions on your own and know what to say. And so finding that person to kind of talk through and unravel those thoughts.
So there's healthy boundaries as well. What boundaries have you put in place for yourself to give you like a hard stop?
That's a good question. What do you mean?
Like, I don't know. Some people might not go to a restaurant if they know that there's a bar in it.
Got it. Okay.
Or I don't know, if there's a trigger of something that makes you want to drink, you make sure that you're not stepping into that,
Got it. Yeah. I honestly can say that I don't really feel like I have any boundaries because I'm so firm in the decision that I made, which I think some people can relate to, but some it might be harder to, especially when you're newer on your journey. I will say and even still, like when I do go out, I always want to make sure that there's, either an NA beer or a mocktail or something that I can have to just hold. And like I said, not feel,
awkward.
Not feel awkward. Yeah. Because there's something I think that was a part of it in college too, is I just didn't want to feel like on the outside. So I wanted to hold what everybody else was holding, do what everybody else was doing. And so I always make sure that first thing I do is order something.
We would call that the temperament need to be included. Inclusion.
Yeah.
Which is a real thing.
Totally.
Yeah. Different people have various levels of it, but there's that need or desire to be included.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So that's definitely something. And even when I go to people's houses for like a Super Bowl party or some kind of gathering, I bring my own. I drink flavored sparkling waters. And so I always make sure that I bring some with me. It's not on the people's house that I'm going to provide those options if they don't want to.
Yeah.
So you have to take a little bit of accountability for yourself to make sure that you have what you want.
So that's a form of a boundary, I suppose.
Yeah.
Where you're setting yourself up for success.
Right.
And you're not like, all right, I'm going to the bar and we're going to evangelize. I don't know. Whatever,
right. Totally. And there are people who can do that.
Yeah.
But that's also not, because here's the other thing is I don't think that I've gone to a bar yet. And because I love to dance. So I still want to be able to go to maybe a bar, maybe like a line dancing bar or something, and still have a good time. I haven't tried it yet. I would say I'm probably a little bit nervous, just because of the environment. But I also know, a lot of places, they'll give out like DD wristbands. So if you're the designated driver that night, the bar knows then that they can't serve you alcohol. Or, you'll also save a ton of money if you're not drinking too.
So there you go. There's another boundary for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Find a bar that you can be the DD and
exactly.
get a wristband on, and then everybody knows and holds you accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. I know that there's different people on this journey when it comes to their relationship with alcohol and trying to do it in a way that's better for themselves, in a way that is honoring to God. And so I'm just grateful for you and for your willingness to jump out there and to share your story and your podcast. Can you just give me a little bit of a oversight? What all is your podcast about?
Yeah, absolutely. So my podcast is Talk Your Abs Off. It is an extension of my business. So what my goal is and has been since I came out of college and working in the wellness space is helping people find what works for them as far as fitness and health and what they can continue for their entire lifetime. It needs to be sustainable. Otherwise, you're going to see the dieting, the crash dieting, the binging, things like that. So finding what people can do. So I have a variety of topics. I talk to people who've had their own success in their weight loss journeys. I talk to professionals who they might be running coaches, might be functional health nurses. So we talk about gut health. We talk about a wide range of wellness topics. And my hope for the podcast is that it would help someone find one healthy habit or thing that they can stick to for the rest of their life.
Yeah, that's good. It's awesome. It's called, say it again.
Talk Your Abs Off.
Talk Your Abs Off, yeah. So we'll make sure to throw that into the link so that people can jump to it pretty easy.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. So, well, Abby, I really appreciate you coming in. And this is such a big deal and a big topic for lots of people. And so my hope is that people will be able to be inspired by your story and be able to find that health and that freedom that you've been able to find. And so just want to encourage our listeners that if this is you and you feel like, man, I need to take that step, we want to encourage you to take that first step. Find help, talk to your friends. I think that was the first thing you said was say something to somebody.
Yeah.
And so make sure that you're doing that you're taking that first step to find freedom. Nothing should feel like a burden. Nothing should feel like like we're a prison to it. And that's why Jesus came, is so that we could have that freedom and we could walk and live in that freedom. So thank you guys so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. We have new episodes coming out all the time. Please, if this message spoke to you, or if you know someone that needed to hear this today, we would encourage you to please share that with them so that they can hear this message as well. And remember, God designed you to be strong in your mind, in your body, and in your spirit, and He is invested in making that happen in all three areas of your life. So thanks again, Abby, for being here, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.